Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about an action drama film called The Princess from 2022. Enjoy your viewing. The princess wakes up and realizes that her hands are handcuffed. She recalls that the night before she was grabbed and forced to inhale a substance. After that, the girl was placed in the tower. However, she is not allowed to think about her difficult fate. Two guards enter her room. The princess goes back to bed and pretends to be asleep until one of them approaches her. Then the king's daughter begins to bribe the guards with all available means. She frees her hand from the shackles and uses it as a weapon. Next, she uses a hairpin. One good blow to the eye makes the guard not only blind in one eye, but also sends him to the next world. His partner is thrown off the tower by the princess, hitting him in the chest. But the battle does not end there. Another guard enters the fray and is killed by the king's daughter with a sledgehammer. Then, having laid the bodies down as if they were resting, she closes the door and escapes. Once in the infirmary, she looks out the window and sees the royal family and their courtiers being captured by the men of Julius, her fiancé. Julius made a deal with the king, who, having no heir, was going to marry off his eldest daughter. Then Julius would have become the head of the kingdom, but at the last moment the princess ran away. Then Julius ordered to catch her and capture the castle. He intends to marry her, whether the princess wants to or not. Of course, she didn't want to. While the princess was lamenting the fact that her rash decision had led to a deadly battle, a man wearing a helmet with horns entered the toilet. He really wanted to go to the bathroom. The princess managed to hide in a container of water. When she came out, she had to shorten her dress even more. In the corridor, she again encountered a horned guard. After testing the strength of this man, the princess realized that it was not so easy. She could not defeat him, and she had to use all her skill and cunning to stab the enemy in the back with a horn from his own helmet. And then it was easier. She just had to hit the big man on the head. The princess learned all these wisdom of battle from a court warrior named Lin. She taught her since childhood. The princess's mother did not mind. The main thing was that the girl should have time to comprehend the sciences proper to the king's daughter. Lin taught the girl not only hand-to-hand combat, but also how to use different types of weapons. Meanwhile, the guard who was thrown out of the window from the tower was pulled out of the water. Julius's assistant, named Moira, immediately realizes that the guard did not die by accident. Julius forces one of his men to check the princess's room. He is sure that there is some kind of vigilante in the tower who has decided to disrupt his wedding. Kerr sends the most formidable warrior in the kingdom, a fat man with a sledgehammer, to the top of the tower. Meanwhile, the princess shortens her dress even more, and deals with a couple more warriors who decided to get their hands on the royal gold. Then she tries to escape, but there are too many soldiers in the corridors, and she has to climb out the window to hide from them. A huge warrior stops at the same window to rest. When he leaves, the princess manages to sneak through a secret door into a corridor that is hidden between the walls. She makes her way to her room and pulls out the sword she was once given for her diligent studies. This one was given by Lin's teacher when the princess showed her skills in close combat. Armed, she goes back to the secret corridors and overhears Julius's conversation. He is talking about the legitimacy of his future rule. If he marries the princess, then no one will doubt that he is the king, and then he can destroy the current king and completely take over his lands. When Julius and Moira were near the wall, the princess tried to destroy them, but Julius was distracted and walked away. While she was following her fiancé, the poor guard made it to the top of the tower, but the door to the princess's chamber was locked. So he looked through the keyhole, made sure the guards were inside, and headed back down. Meanwhile, the princess gets out of the secret corridor and finds herself in the same place as the knight in armor. At first, she thought he was a statue, but when the knight came to life, she realized that she would have a hard time. To defeat him, she found the enemy's weaknesses and used them to wound him. Then the princess doused the knight with oil, set him on fire, and sent him out the window. At that moment, a round guard came down to Julius and reported that the princess was in the tower. A second later, the flaming knight landed a meter away from the future king. Kerr has to send his men to check the tower and find the villain who destroyed his soldiers. However, Moira stops them. She is convinced that they must act carefully, because their enemy knows the building thoroughly. Kerr tries to contradict her and is quickly whipped in the neck. This blow kills him. Moira sends his men to check the tower. Here the princess has a hard time. She is attacked by dozens of enemies, many of whom are very good fighters. The girl fights them off with all her might, but still her skills are not enough to defeat them all. So she grabs one of the soldiers, breaks through the railing with him, and jumps several floors down, using the soldier as a buffer. But even here she is not left alone. The princess has to jump through the window, cling to the canvas hanging outside, and run along the wall to the open window. The princess is seriously injured, but this does not prevent her from recalling an episode from her past that is now disturbing her. Back then, she told her father that she did not want to marry a stranger. She would rather be the head of state herself, if her father allowed it. But the king was not so progressive and forced his daughter to marry. We already know what happened next. Lin appears in the room where the wounded princess is hiding. She treats her student's wounds and promises to help the girl save her family. But in order to get to the fortress where the royal family is being held, you have to go through the kitchen and pass through the sewers. Only on this route there are no guards. When the girls came to the kitchen, the soldiers happened to be there. They were about to mock the cook. However, they were not allowed to do so. Lin destroyed the first soldier with a frying pan, and the rest had to fight with swords. Then Moira appeared with her whip. It was impossible to defeat her. Moira hung the princess on the whip, and Lin needed all her skills to free the girl. After that, she sent the princess to the fortress and stayed to fight with Moira. The princess is in a hurry, and she follows the sewage in the sewer. Meanwhile, Lin has lost the fight to a woman with a whip. The princess made a spectacular appearance in the dungeon and neutralized the guards. She freed her family, but a trap awaited them on the stairs. With a punch in the face, the princess was turned into a sleeping beauty, and her family was captured. When she regained consciousness, Julius was preparing to marry her, and the princess was fine with it. But she warned him that the future king would have to learn to sleep with one eye open, because she would not rest until he was dead. Realizing that such a life is not for him, Julius decides to destroy the king's eldest daughter immediately, and then marry his youngest daughter. This girl certainly won't think of destroying him, but this plan does not suit the princess. She attacks Julius, but is thrown out the window by one of the soldiers. Once underwater, the princess remembers Lin's lessons. She cuts the ropes and swims up to the castle walls. Inside, she meets Lin, who saved her little sister from Julius. The three of them go to a secret room where many weapons are hidden. Violet wants to go into battle with the princess and Lin, but they forbid her. They leave the girl in the weapons room, and they go to destroy Julius and his men. The courtiers, like the royal family, are seated in the hall for the celebrations. Julius is only waiting for the king's youngest daughter to marry her. But instead of Violet, her sister comes with her teacher. They massacre numerous soldiers. This makes Julius nervous. However, Violet disobeyed her sister. She snuck into the common room with a knife and freed the ladies and gentlemen of the court. Julius saw her and grabbed her. To help the girl and save her from marriage, Lin rushes inside the castle. She effectively deals with the soldiers who stood in her way. The princess remains in the courtyard to fight with Moira. The freed courtiers run away, and Lin enters into a fight with Julius's men. She is seriously wounded, and her teacher has to carry Lin out of the castle in his arms. Meanwhile, the princess is dealing with Moira by hanging her from her own whip. She runs to Lin's aid. Here she is met by an enraged Julius. He is too strong for the wounded and tired princess. However, Julius is in no hurry to destroy her. While he shows who is the boss, the princess gathers her strength, snatches her teacher's blade from him, and beheads the villain. Then she gives the crown to her father, but he decides that from now on, his daughters will rule the kingdom. The eldest daughter will inherit the throne because she has proven herself a worthy warrior. But this is not even the most important thing. What is more important is that our famous overweight warrior did find the princess when he came down from the tower once again and saw her in the courtyard. This is the end of the movie. If you have watched the video so far, you should know that I am happy to have viewers like you. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klontsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.